Hi, my name is Jamie Bissonnette. I'm the chef partner of Little Donkey, Copa, and Toro restaurants. Today I'm here, I'm cooking the Teres Major from Snake River Farms. And this steak, one of my favorites. If you don't know the Teres Major, a lot of times people call it the petite filet. It comes from the shoulder or shoulder tender. This is one of my favorite new steaks. If you've never heard of it before, you certainly will be seeing it around soon. Snake River Farms does American Wagyu, so you have the best of both worlds. You have a higher grade than American prime USDA beef, and you have the beauty of Japanese style beef. So it's got great intermuscular fat, it's super tender, it's wicked delicious, and it grills up great. Today, we took all the fat from our steaks, we rendered it down with canola oil, garlic, and thyme, and we're gonna use that to brush our steaks instead of oil so we can get more flavor and ensure we get a great Maillard reaction or caramelization of the proteins on the outside of the steak. So first we're gonna season it with salt. Remember when you're seasoning, always season high so it falls like snow, so your steak is evenly seasoned. That goes for anything you ever season. We're gonna also add a little bit of black pepper. Steak loves black pepper, so if you feel like you're not putting enough on there, just keep going. You'll probably never have too much. Then we're gonna brush the grill. Lay the steak on it, and we're gonna start to let it cook. While it's cooking, we're gonna season up our scallions, and we're gonna cook them calçote style or spring onion style like they do in Spain. We're just gonna brush that with more of that fat and season them with salt and a little bit more pepper. And we're just gonna let them sit for a minute. That salt is gonna kind of pull out a little bit of their juices and break them down and start to make them tender. So when they cook, they're gonna be a little bit sweeter. One thing when I cook steaks at home, I don't like to get the ubiquitous hatch marks, like the perfect grill marks. To me, that's not the best way to cook a steak. For me, I like to roll my steak around as it cooks and just keep moving it. And I look at cooking on a grill similar to how you would cook on a rotisserie. So if you keep moving it, rather than having it sear and having all of the juices run from one side to the other, you're getting it to go evenly, so you're gonna end up with a more evenly cooked steak that when you rest it and go to slice it, it's gonna be super juicy and delicious. The other thing is, I baste my steak throughout going through it. The flare-ups, if you have a gas grill or you're doing it outside on like a little green egg or something like that, is perfect because that's gonna add a little bit more flavor. Now, this is a steak that cooks pretty quickly. It is dense. The great thing about this steak is the way it holds all of its heat, it doesn't carry over and overcook when you're letting it rest. So we're gonna put our onions on the grill. And I like to do this at the same time because what I'll do is, as I get the steak to a point where I wanna slow it down, rather than having a hot spot or a cold spot on the grill, I'll put it on top of the onions so more and more of those flavors can commingle and cook together. When somebody asks me, how do I cook steaks? I always say, I cook steaks by paying attention to them. I'm not the kind of person that puts a steak on a grill and walks away. I like to stand there and look at it and focus on it and just like listen to the sizzle. You listen to hear the big pops. If there's big pops, that's caramelization. That means that it's time to move the steak. It's starting to get charred. If you don't hear any sizzle, that means that your grill is too cold. Either you need to turn it up, stoke your fire, or move your steak to a hotter part of the grill. So the beauty on these scallions is just kind of charring them. A little bit of burn is gonna be good because serving it with the Romesco sauce, which is a Catalan sauce made with dried chilies, almonds, and tomatoes. So together, they're absolutely delicious. Steak is looking good. We're gonna just put it on top of those onions for a minute. So a lot of people ask, how do you tell the temperature of a steak? Now, by feeling it, you never know. That can lie. All steaks are different, so we always go by temperature. So buy a cake tester or get a thermometer. And we put this in, we let it sit for a couple of seconds, we pull it out, and then I run it on my wrist where it's nice and sensitive, and I'm feeling for an aggregate temperature. So cool to warm is like rare. Warm to tepid, like a little bit hot, is medium rare. If it's kind of warmish to very hot, then you're getting medium. If you touch it and it feels just a little bit too hot, it's medium well. If you touch it and it's really, really hot, then you've completely destroyed your steak. So now we see that the onions are starting to char, they're completely tender, and we're just gonna pull those off. Another thing that I do is I like to put a little bit of fresh herbs, especially when I'm cooking at home and I have my garden. And for the last part, I let the steak kind of cook with the burning herbs, and you get a little bit of smokiness. So now we've pulled the steak off. We're going to allow it to rest on top of the onions, so any of the juices that relax and come out of it are going to flavor the onions and kind of they'll mop it up like a sponge. We can take our flaming thyme and throw that on top and let that smoke. It looks great, smells great. It'll impress the parents. One of the keys to cooking a great steak is letting it rest or relax after it's cooking so all of the juices can redistribute. The Snake River Farms Teres Major is awesome because it doesn't have to rest wicked long. It doesn't bleed out and it doesn't carry over cooking afterwards. So now we're going to slice the steak. Remembering to slice it against the grain. The grain, you can see, goes this way, so we want to slice it against, and you want to go straight down, never on an angle. On an angle extrapolates the way that the fibers are, and then your steak will also be a little bit more chewy. So we're going to do nice long strokes of a sharp knife without pushing. You don't want to push down on it because that's going to push the juices out. And you can see that this is nice and evenly cooked all around. So we're going to serve the Teres Major today with a little Romesco sauce. So the recipe for this lives on the Snake River Farms website. It's also in the book that comes with the box, or you can buy this at some Spanish specialty stores. If you don't have Romesco or you don't like almonds, you can totally use something else. You can use harissa, you could use chimichurri, you could use mahamara, you could even use hummus. So the world is your oyster. Be creative, but we're going to use this on the steak today. And we're just going to kind of dollop it on the plate. I like the food to kind of look kind of intentionally messy, so we just kind of put it around and smear it so it looks different. You've got some negative space to make the plate look pretty. We'll put the steak on it right there, and then a little bit over here. We're going to hit it with a little bit of Jacobson's sea salt from Portland, Oregon to help give it a little bit of a crunch, punch, and a little bit more salinity. Going to take some of our calçotes, just kind of top them on the steak. Again, these burnt little brown bits are going to add so much flavor. And then last, we're going to drizzle it with just a little bit of olive oil. So here we are. We've got a beautiful Snake River Farmed grilled Teres Major with charred scallions, Romesco sauce, and Jacobson's sea salt. This made me hungry, so I'm going to go chow. Thank you very much.